and welcome to the first of the Business Essentials series from Bournemouth Poole College. And this one is called 14 Ways to Raise Your Prices, and in brackets, and keep your customers. I'm Nick Hixson. I'm a chartered and certified accountant, as some of you will know, and I've had 30 years business experience working for SMEs in the locality, south of England. We've done a lot of work with a lot of clients, mainly on strategy planning, so we do with a great deal more detail than most accountants do when we're working with clients, and we've developed a number of proven techniques which we can use and have used successfully when we come across common problems which small business clients have encountered. These are simple how to do things, they're derived from experience. Quite a lot of it you will know, so this is not do you know this, you probably do. It's do you do it. The first bit is secrets of pricing for profit. Now, economists claim that prices are set by markets, but they're wrong. Prices are set by people running businesses, and that means people like you. And they're among the most important decisions you will ever make. Get them right, and you could be on the road to fame and fortune. But get them wrong, and your business is doomed to failure. Why do some businesses get it wrong? Well, let's prove that setting your prices is one of the most important things you'll ever do. So we'll look at this example. The name beloved by all accountants, Widget Co. And last month, Widget Co. made £500 selling profit selling 1,000 widgets. It did it like this. It sold 1,000 widgets at £10. The cost of those widgets was £7 each. So that was £7,000 from the £10,000 sales, leaving a gross profit of £3,000, overheads of £2,500, leads a profit of £500. All simple stuff. Now, Widget Co. has commissioned some market research. Now, if you'd like to know simple ways of doing market research, then the next Business Essentials is on that topic. So please do listen to it. Small businesses have this issue with market research. They think it's difficult, expensive. How they do it, we'll show you. So anyway, Widget Co. has done the market research, and this suggests they have two options. Option A is they can increase their sales volume by 20% if they reduce their prices by 10% to £9. Or option B, if you put the prices up by 10% to £11, they will lose 20% volume. And when we asked them what Widget Co. would do, most entrepreneurs have no hesitation in saying something like, go for option A. It's always worth selling more, and anyway, Widget Co. gains more in volume than it loses in price, so it must be profitable. Let's see. Are they right? Unfortunately not. It's precisely because so many people get this question wrong that their businesses get into very real problems. So let's go through it. Remember, 10% cheaper, but 20% more volume, so that's 1,200 widgets at £9, 10,800. Cost of sales of 1,200 widgets, a bit usually forgotten, at £7, 8,400, leaves a gross profit of only 2,400, same overheads of 2,500, loss of 100. Oops. Let's look at option B though. 20% less volume, 800 widgets at 10% more, 8,800, only 800 widgets bought, that's £7, 5,600, gross profit 3,200, overheads still 2,500, that's a profit of £700, which is £200 more than not undertaking either of these options. And as you can see under option A, the price cut, Widget Co. makes a loss. It's heading for disaster. It's actually worse off than it was before the price cut. And it's much worse off than it would have been if it had increased its prices. There's nothing very special or unusual about this example. It simply illustrates a fundamental point that is all too often overlooked. Stimulating sales by cutting prices may boost your top line turnover, but it can just as easily devastate your bottom line profits. Like many other companies, Widget Co. will not only be able to generate bigger profits by increasing its prices, But by reducing its sales, it will also need less cash to finance debtors and stocks. And by eliminating customers at the cheaper end of the spectrum, let's be fair, if you're taking on new customers, they're the price-sensitive ones. The price-sensitive ones, are they the most financially stable? Possibly not. You'll probably reduce the amount of money you'll lose as bad debts. You'll reduce the amount of working capital you've got to invest in debtors, and you'll reduce the amount of working capital you've got to invest in stock if you're reducing volume. However, if you're increasing volume, all of those things are likely to go up, and you've got to fund them. Not easy. There's always a double entry. I know I'm an accountant, we're into double entry, but you must think there's not just one impact in your business, there's always another one. Always look over your shoulder, where's the other impact? And with this one, it's stock, debtors, possible bad debts. So, if it reduces its prices, it gets into default quite easily. It's a problem, it starts making losses. If it increases its prices, loses the volume by 20%, it becomes a leaner and fitter business. It provides a higher rate of return using less working capital. Better than the lame duck solution of option A. Choosing the right pricing strategy can be the difference between success or failure. So, think about it. Are we doing option A in our business or doing option B? We need to check. There may, of course, be times where you can prove that lower prices will lead to higher profits. For example, in the case of Widget Co, you can do the sums. Option A's 10% price cut could have been more profitable than option B's 10% price rise, but only if it leads to at least an 80% increase in the number of widgets sold. Ask yourself, is that likely? And can you find the probable 80% rise in stock and debtors, probable more bad debts, and an awful lot more work to earn very little more money? Let's be fair, that £2,500 overhead may flex up a bit as well. All of this illustrates the general rule very nicely. If you can prove that the demand for your products is very sensitive to changes in price, then cutting your prices may increase your profits. But never simply accept the naive equation much loved by sales reps. Lower prices equal higher sales equal higher profits. The truth is, convenience, habit, concerns over quality, better the devil you know than the one you don't, or make many customers reluctant to switch allegiance for the sake of a few pence or percent in price. Do you, for example, putting yourself in your customer's shoes when you are buying things, will you necessarily move that quickly just for a few pennies less? Or will you think, why are they so cheap? Perhaps I'd better stick with what I know, because I know it's going to arrive on time and I know the quality is going to be okay. I know I'll be able to satisfy my customers. How often do you even switch allegiance from a favourite supermarket or garden centre or pub or restaurant just because a new one has opened up, offering slightly lower prices? How often do you even know that they're offering lower prices? How often are you prepared to pay just a little bit more for a product or service that you know and understand and are happy with? So if you want simple equations, try these two instead. Lower prices equal lower profits until proven otherwise. Higher prices equal higher profits until proven otherwise. So, pricing for profit, that's the first chunk of this. I promise, come to 14 ways of raising your prices later, but it's really important you understand context. Let's move on. Maximum profit is what you want. Customers care about prices, but they're not the only thing they care about. And your business and marketing strategy should mirror that fact. In other words, you should never compete on price alone. If you do, your competitors are effectively setting your price. Ask yourself, do your competitors have your best interests at heart? Possibly not. Instead, don't just compete on price, make sure that what you're offering exactly meets the needs of your customers. and then sell it to them on the basis of best value rather than lowest price. Now, what's best value? It's the gap between the benefits a customer perceives and the price. Best value is a bigger gap than anyone else's. Now, again, I'm being quite external with all of this. You'll have guessed already. I haven't said what are you doing, what's your overheads, how do you price this, because it's slightly irrelevant. The only person that really determines whether you are in business or not is your customer. You have to be customer facing all the time in whatever you're doing, and then you've just got to make it fit. And if your competitors are not customer facing, good for you. As soon as you turn onto this, you'll be happy. So will your customers, more of them as well. So, 3 ways of offering best value. Make sure that your products and services are exactly what your customers need and want. So they offer the best and most appropriate combination of benefits. Please don't just sell features which are important to you. Please think in the customer's terms. You can quote features as long as you put in your mind which means that, and then quote the benefit to the customer. If you can't find the benefit to the customer, the feature doesn't mean anything to them. Don't bother mentioning it. Don't certainly go heavily into that feature in your sales literature and talk, because the customer is going to notice. How do you do this? Market research again. Sorry, another plug for the next seminar, but it's market research. Then your customers have to fully understand those benefits, and unless they understand what you offer is special, they'll assume it's average, so they'll assume an average price. Again, it's selling benefits. The way to do that is to fully understand your customer, otherwise they won't understand those benefits that you're proposing to them. And then you present your prices in the best possible light. And this is where we get soon now to the 14 ways to raise your prices and keep customers. Get these things right and customers will happily pay you more than ever before. How do you cope with the fact that some customers are willing to pay more than others? Shouldn't you just have one price? Well, so most people do. How do you know which customers are willing to pay? How do you do this? Well, economists, sometimes they're right, tell us that the market price is set by supply and demand. And we can show this graphically. In the graph, SP is the standard selling price. But the problem is that having only one selling price causes you to lose out in 2 different ways. For some customers, that price is too high, so they don't buy and you lose them as a customer. And for some customers, that price is too low, so you end up charging them less than you could have and earning less profit, less than they're willing to pay, which means you lose again. Economists call the amount which you lose in the second scenario the consumer surplus, and it's this red bit at the top. The consumer surplus represents the individuals who are both willing and able to pay more for your product and service than you're charging them. And one of the keys to dramatically improving your profits is to claw back some of this consumer surplus by charging different customers different prices. This is often called price discrimination, and this is exactly what publishers do with hardcover and paperback books, as I know because I have published them. Many people believe that hardcover books are about twice the price of paperback books because it costs twice as much to print a hardcover book. In fact, the difference in production costs are really quite small. In my case, it was about £1. Publishers have recognised that some people are prepared to pay substantially more for a book in order to buy it as soon as it's published. But more price-sensitive consumers are prepared to wait for the paperback version. So publishers produce 2 different sorts for 2 different markets. And in both cases, they are satisfying 2 different sorts of customer perfectly satisfactorily and perfectly ethically. Now, other people do it as well. How quickly do you want your goods from Amazon? Are you willing to wait 2 to 3 days, or do you want it tomorrow? In which case, you pay something for that. You pay for the convenience, or because there's some degree of urgency. We've just ordered a new camera. It's all gone horribly wrong because we need it for next week. So we've had to pay £7.20 to get the plastic thing here tomorrow, instead of waiting 5 days, which may not actually give us time to charge the battery before we need to use it. You need to price according to the value that you give, and many businesses set their prices using a cost-plus method. Many service businesses use hourly rates to set prices. Cost-plus methods such as hourly billing can seriously affect your profit potential, and they're not in the best interest of your customers either. Some of the main disadvantages are the interests of you and your customers are incompatible, which is not a good way of keeping them, frankly. You focus on costs and not the value to your customers. And again, I'm harping on, I know, about customer focus the whole time. The customer takes the risk of your inefficiencies. We're accountants. Accountants in olden times, we don't do anymore, used to bill by the hour. Well, how slow would you like me to be and still pay my bill, Mr. Customer? Well, you'd like me to be fast, wouldn't you? Normally. Creates a production mentality rather than an entrepreneurial spirit as well. We've just come across this example in a client, sadly. They were very, very slow in getting their invoices out because a particular piece of paper needed scanning and filing first. So on the 16th of May, I discovered that invoices for the 4th of April had not been sent out because of this procedural fault, which has held everything up for 6 weeks. Managing director is complaining there's no invoices going out. Well, they're stuck in their internal bureaucracy. We're not talking about a large firm here, there's only 15 of them, rather than focusing on what's important. And Cost Plus focuses on efforts, not on results. It penalises technological advances. The rates are set by your competitors because that's the only thing that people can value you on, because they can't value on how long you're taking because you don't tell them. And by the way, we're harping into the third Business Essentials seminar here, which is how to write a quote, where you try and differentiate, find ways for you to differentiate between you and your competitors so you win better business and more of it. It doesn't differentiate you from your competition, and you clearly must be doing that. It limits your potential, and it creates, as I said before, a bureaucracy of recording things rather than actually getting the thing out and helping your customer. Traditional cost-plus pricing starts by finding out how much it costs to produce the product or service, and then you apply a markup. I will bore you for a moment about markup and margins later. Bizarrely, national salespeople constantly price this way, when it's irrelevant how many pieces of widget you need and how many hours it takes to assemble it and how much you would like to make on terms of profit. If that's not what your customer is willing to pay, it's up to you to get to make enough profit so that if he wants to pay £100 and your costs come to 120, you've got to find a way of sorting out your internal processes, whether what you're buying, the time you're spending on it, all your other bits and pieces, so that you satisfy his need and make a profit. Because you can't just say, my price is 120, Mr. Customer, all round, and nobody will buy at that price because you won't have a business. Value pricing starts by finding out how much the customer values the product or service, and this determines the price, and it's therefore fairer to the customer. Now, if you know the next bit, I apologise, but if it saves one person listening to this from this era, it's worth it. It's the difference between margin and markup. Margin means gross profit, gross margin, contribution. I'm using margin because I quite like the alliteration. And the problem comes when people muddle the definitions, because then you end up working the percentage on the wrong number, and it all goes horribly wrong. Let's do an example, very simple, just 30% on both. Cost of sales, back to the widget type thing, £70 again. The margin is 30%, so that'll be 21 over 30 is 30%, but on a margin basis, for the markup that is, but for the margin basis that means the sales are 100 because it's based on this. Margin is the percentage over sales, markup is the percentage over cost of sales, cost of the goods that you're selling. And you'll see here, this ends up with a markedly different gross profit, which is what that is, and a different sales price. Now, this, sadly, is a real life example. And I say sadly because I got to this client when they had been trading for about 6 years. They'd been doing this for 6 years. They had made a loss for 6 years. And they were convinced that the only reason they were making a loss was because their previous accountant was manipulating the figures to save them from paying any tax. The fact that they had remortgaged their house did not seem to make any sense to them, and they did not relate that to the constant losses in the business. But this is what they were actually doing. They were buying for £100, they were marking up by 25%, and they were selling for £125. This is a little computer shop in Bournemouth, by the way. Now their actual margin was 25 over, if you remember, the selling price 125, 20%. If you start to think about the numbers here, if you've got a markup of 100%, so you buy for 100, sell for 200, that will give you 100 over 200 as a margin, 50%. If you had let's do another one quickly, a 50% markup, we would buy for 100, add 50, 150, the margin would be 50 over 150, 33 and a third percent. So big differences somewhere here. You can make big mistakes. Fortunately for them, possibly, perhaps unfortunately, they've had bigger margins. If they did 50 and the 33 or the 100 and the 50, they might have noticed it a little bit earlier. We made a lot more of a loss a lot quicker. They were using 25% markup. And this is what was happening. The managing director was expecting sales of £750,000, which is pretty much what he got. He was expecting a gross profit of £187,500 because he was saying 25% of 750 is 187,500. He knew pretty much what his overheads were, so he was expecting a profit of £30,000. However, what he got was sales of 750,000. A margin at 20% of that means £150,000, not 187,500 gross profit. There were one or two small little differences in overheads, but nothing very consequent. But you can see quite easily that's an instant loss. And they've done that for 6 years. It took me 3 conversations of about 15 minutes each to convince him how wrong this all was, and it was frankly too late. So all I'm asking you to do is to reflect, understand whether you're doing margin or markup, and what you're marking up or what the margin is based on. Is it based on sales or is it based on cost of sales? Please don't muddle the two, because when you get a set of accounts out, you'll be looking at gross profit, which is margin. So don't do what this poor gentleman did, because it is not good. You may be making a profit, but you can make an awful lot more. Enough of that. Let's get on to what I said we'd be doing at the beginning, which is 14 ways to charge more without losing customers. The first one is offer guarantees. Customers will part with their money more readily and pay a higher price if they know that you get their money back if something goes wrong. John Lewis are excellent at this. You know with confidence you can buy something for John Lewis and send it back and they will not quibble, which is why we have spent for the camera I mentioned earlier £6 more than we could have got it somewhere else, because I know it will arrive tomorrow and I know that if there's a problem they will take it back. Oh, by the way, on the guarantees thing, as a firm we offer one. It's very simple. If you don't like it, don't pay for it, or pay what you think it's worth. No one's ever changed a bill like that, but we think it's important that you should be able to have that ability, and we're quite comfortable to stand by that. Secondly, provide sensational service. Study after study has shown that customers are willing to pay more if you give them great service. Research also suggests that companies providing great service grow twice as fast as those that give bad service. Put yourself in your customers' shoes. Find examples from your life as a consumer of goods and services. What works for you? Perhaps you need to just take a 2-minute break if you want, and just write down what turns you on and what turns you off, and make sure that things that turn you on are incorporated in your business, and the things that turn you off are eliminated, because you are likely to be pretty much in the majority with your customers. Because we all like the same sort of things, and we all dislike the same sort of things. But provide sensational service. Oh, and by the way, some time ago, when I was doing a handbook on customer service, which I need to revise very badly, I did the research on this. Now, if you manage to annoy your customer so that they leave, they are likely to tell 19 more people, and that's 19 people like them. Now, if they were a customer previously, then the 19 people like them were also likely to be part of your target market. That's very bad news. Sadly, if you provide sensational service, your happy customers only likely to tell 7 people. But again, it's 7 people like them, and that should be extra sales for you. So, moving on. What next? Make the price seem insignificant. Perhaps break it up into little bits and express it in terms of pounds per day, or even pence per day, pounds per usage. And this trick's one of the keys to success of the National Lottery. They've been able to persuade almost half the country to spend £100 a year by breaking annual costs down into seemingly insignificant £1 tickets. Other ways are monthly payments. Buy now, pay later. All of those make it easy for your customer to buy from you. And certainly if you're doing a monthly payment, you'll be thinking about possible bad debts. But you might be adding in some little cost of capital calculation, so in the end you should be earning a little bit more out of it. Reduced discounts is number 4, and in many industries, discounts off list prices are the single largest group of costs, and yet they're usually given with little or no senior management involvement or authorization. Considerable savings can usually be made by tightening up discount authorization procedures. Savings that can lead directly to higher net prices and profits. Very common in the motor trade or advertising, never pay list, and all the negotiations are done at the front line by sales staff. Now in the motor trade, normally you will argue the toss with the salesman, and then he'll trot off and try and get authorization from his manager. And the reason he does that is because his manager hasn't met you. He can be much more dispassionate about it. So he's been quite balanced in trying to keep the discounts at a significant level. An awful lot of other trades, advertising and the like. And I went to a timber company recently as well. They have a bank of people selling timber, specialists in their field, to give the pun, and the buyers are specialists as well. So they're arguing the toss about price and quality and delivery and all sorts all the time. But there is a rule in that firm that if it goes over a certain limit, it has to be referred to the managing director. It's not a big firm. He can take that number of calls, and he will, in my hearing, I heard him talk about to his sales guy a 2 or 3% price difference, and then they went for 3. That 1% can be fairly significant. I'll show you later. Maybe you want to pause at this point, just take 5 minutes and just think about these first four ways and just see how we can tweak these a little bit and just make it work for you. Oh, by the way, if you can't remember all the detail here, we do have a PDF which we can give to anybody that wants to apply for it. So I'll tell you how at the end. Okay, here's the fifth. Creative discounting. Now what's that? How about instead of having flat rate discounts, 10% across the board, replace them with step discounts. 5% on the first £1,000, 10% on the next £2,000, 15% above that. Because you're getting, hopefully, some economies of scale in processing and delivering larger orders. So you can pass some of that on, and you'd obviously prefer your customers to be buying more from you. Not only do they look impressive and encourage people to buy more, but they also often work out cheaper because of these economies of scale and the delivery bits. These bog-off deals in supermarkets, you know how they work, don't you? They put the prices up, then they drop them later when the offer comes out. If you want ways of pricing, follow what the supermarkets do. They are absolutely world class. So you adopt a supermarket strategy, I wonder. Have a think about it. Describe as investments. Well, that sounds terribly trite, doesn't it? You can't just say it's a cost. Well, just call it an investment. That'll be okay. No, you can't. But what you can do is describe, again, the benefit that the customer is going to get from it in value terms. We do it quite often, actually. If a client asks us to do a new and different piece of work, we will put some cost to it, and we'll also try and assess the benefit the customer is going to get from this, and we will tell them. And I expect normally, if I'm going to spend a couple of £1,000 worth or whatever of my client's money, I expect my client to get a return of about £6,000 or £8,000 from that. And if he's not going to, I don't think he's going to, I will pick up the phone and just say, do you really want to do this? And sometimes there's other reasons and they'll say yes. Well, at least they will appreciate what I'm trying to do, and they will appreciate that they are going to get some value from this. So at that point, my cost does truly become an investment. Tell them it's less than expected. Start the conversation early. Repeatedly tell your customers you might have to put prices up by, let's say, 20% because unit prices to you have gone up. The cost of fuel has gone up. Some other thing has gone up. And tell them, obviously, you're trying to resist this, and you're arguing the toss with your suppliers, and you're trying to do your best for your customers, which you will be, so you may as well tell them you're doing it. Don't let them guess you're not. But then perhaps increase them by less than 20%. And how far below 20% you pitch the eventual price rise depends on your assessment of the true depth of their horror. And you mentioned the initial suggestion. By making the eventual price rise less painful than your customers are expecting, you can turn a potentially damaging increase into a success because you show that you are trying to help them. Soften the blow. Try to reduce the prices of some items in your range at the same time as increasing the price of most of the others. So you can soften the bad news with some good news. And obviously you talk a little bit more about the good news. Again, we're back at supermarkets. £50 off. You spend £50 at the supermarket, £5 off the petrol. Why petrol? Because petrol is perceived as being horribly expensive in this country, and it's a source of continual discussion. Remember, supermarkets are excellent for this sort of thing. Again, that's another four ways. If you want to pause here, just take 5 minutes and think about ways in which you can have conversations along those lines with your customers, which will hopefully give some benefit to you. Now, do I have to say explain why? I probably do for completeness, but again, right through this, I've been saying talk to your customers, have conversations, be prepared to explain why prices have risen. Perhaps their cost increases, whatever, but point out that if it had not been improvements in your own productivity and efficiency, the increase would have been higher. Better still, if you can, explain that the price has increased as a result of improvements to the quality of the product, or the quality of delivery of the product, or the whatever enhanced features, the improved packaging, increased reliability, the better customer support, some of which you can do without necessarily having to cost you any money. If you put a customer support line available, it may not cost you any more because people are ringing you anyway. But it may be something the customer may feel more comfortable with using you, and they'll be more willing to pay a little bit more. Again, as always, think in the customer's terms. What's important to them? Justify your prices. Don't be afraid. Vital to have strong justification and defence for your prices prepared in advance, which is likely to include knowing the prices of your most expensive competition, demonstrating savings and benefits from your product compared to theirs, and demonstrating your product is hugely superior and therefore slightly more expensive. Because, here's a list. Do you have a set of written scripts, not word for word? You need to have a proper conversation, not just parrot at your customers, but a set of written scripts to help you overcome price objections, just with bullet points as to why it's like this, why we've done this, so you don't forget anything, that's all. Make sure you test those scripts to make sure they're giving you the best possible result. Next is non-price increases. For example, considering charging extra for installation, delivery, insurance, handling, storage, urgent orders, rapid delivery. Again, I've told you, we are paying extra because we need it quickly. We're paying slightly extra because we're buying it from somewhere where we are comfortable, but they will have it back if there's a problem. We're not paying lots more, but we're paying a little bit more. You can also try increasing your minimum order size, introduce a surcharge for orders below that threshold, revise your discount structure, done that, slimming down the specification of your product, and strip out expensive features that are of limited value to your customer. Remember, if it's no benefit to your customer, the feature doesn't exist in their head. So why are you building it into your product unless it's absolutely necessary for its functionality? And if it is absolutely necessary for its functionality, you should be selling a benefit. If we mention that, again, maybe charge interest and overdue accounts as well. Not many people do, or threaten to, but they don't do it. And it's still worth doing. If nothing else, gets the debtors in quicker. Change the package. If the customer tries to knock you down on price, don't change the price, change the package. Never simply crumble on price. Always trade a price reduction for some concession with the customer. A larger order, cash up front. It's always worth a go. That's another 4. Good time to pause if you want to take 5 minutes. Just think about how you, the extra conversations you can have around these things with your customers. Nothing else. From all of this, have a conversation about how good your stuff is with your customers and repeatedly tell them. Don't just do it once, repeat it. Have conversations regularly with all your key customers. Tell them why you're good and what you're doing for them. If nothing else, they will know you're listening. That's good stuff. Last 2. Trade for referrals. Nothing else has worked. Okay? One-off, I repeat, price cut for a referral. Okay, Mr. Customer, I'll give you 10% just this once. You realise, and then you go through, we've got these costs, etc., etc. All the list of other things. But in return, can you do something for me? And if you've given something to a customer, generally they want to do something to help you. Can I please have a referral? And by a referral, what I mean is a name, a phone number, some idea about what they do, how they do it, are they likely to produce a customer for me, email address, and can I quote you, Mr. Customer, when I ring Dave, Super Wizzo Widget Company, can I please quote you and say say, Henry at Widget Co. said, you need to ring Dave because, and Henry will not think of the words, you've got to probably think of the column, because my company produces fabulous widgets, just what Henry's always wanted, good price, great delivery, and they're easy and nice people to do business with, something along those lines. So that you have some quotes, you get a proper referral. Last thing, top-down pricing. Do you always show your customers the most expensive options first? Top-down pricing is a simple but highly effective way of increasing the amount customers spend. Just think about when you go into a restaurant. It's a nice restaurant. There's a known chef or some such thing. And you look at the wine list to start with, and some of those wines are lots of money, and some of them are not lots of money, and you can afford them. And you look at the wines which are lots of money, and you mentally shake your head, and you buy something else. Well, I promise you, you will be spending just a touch more than you would have done with the same wine somewhere else, because you will have this perception that this is a high-class place, and you are paying for all the other things, the ambiance, the chef, the service, whatever. So you just pay a tiny bit more. It tends to move people up just a little bit in the menu. Same with the food. There'll be signature dishes, and there'll be a ton of money. You'll just spend a little bit more each time. And if every table spends £10 more out of, let's say, £150 for 4 people in a good restaurant with wine, maybe, and you multiply that by the number of tables, and you multiply that by the number of nights, that's a chunk of money. It's worth starting with your most expensive price and working down. So that's the 14 ways. Just one other thing before we finish. What's in it for me? Well, I'll show you why you should bother. And I'm making the assumption here that you are a small businessman, this is your business. And it works something like this. You've got your standard 30% margin, you've got overheads of 20, and you've got a 10% profit margin. Now, when I am discussing with my clients about pricing, and let's be fair, most small business people are terrified of putting their prices up and losing the customer. We have a negotiation about how much they should put their prices up. And I don't bother with any science, I just tell them it should be this, because that just starts a negotiation. But whatever we end up at, and it's more than this next slide, you can do this one. Let's just add 1%. Let's just run the numbers all over again. It's very simple. Sales become 101. Cost of sales don't change, still 70. You don't buy any more things, you just put the prices up. Your margin is now 31, not 30. Your overheads are 20, still. And your profit has gone up from 10 to 11, which is a 10% rise in profits. 1% rise in sales is a 10% rise in profit. That's fairly significant. Now, let me underline the point. Your 10%, your £10 of profit that you earn, your salary, your dividends, however you take it, your 10, most of that goes on tax, your mortgage, utilities, insurance, food, car, the kids. All sorts of things have a call upon it before you get to spend. Some of these may be discretionary. You might like your house, a slightly bigger mortgage, or a slightly bigger car, or you decide how many kids you have. But once you've got them, you're pretty much stuck with them for a while. As a father of 4, I speak with experience here. So out of that 10, there's a lot of calls on that money. So if you're lucky, you might have £2 out of that 10 left for enjoyment, maybe. But you just think what you've just done. You've added £1 to your sales, or 1% price rise, which is not a lot. When I'm having negotiations, we do not settle on 1% commission. Well above that. So your price rise gives you £1 extra fund money. That is a 50% rise in your fund. I think that's what's in it for you. Now, if you've got any questions or if you'd like the handout, please just send me an email. It's nick@Hixsons, HIXSONS.co.uk. And thank you very much for listening. And I really hope you come back and listen to the other Business Essentials series, next one being market research. Thanks very much.